Good day, ICT learners in grade 10. Today, in this video lesson, I'm going to discuss to you the content of the entire Module 8, which is entitled Computer Assembly Procedure. So in this module, we are going to do three different activities. The first one is the disassembly process. The second one is the assembly. And the third one is the identification of parts of our system unit. This module teaches us to acquire one of the most basic skill that a computer hardware service technician must acquire, which is independently assemble and disassemble a system unit. This is the simplest module from the way back quarter 1, from the module 1, 2, 3 up to 8, but this has the main task. Ito yung kung saan natin makatagpuan yung pinakagagawin natin in our course Computer System Servicing. Ito na yung pinaka-basic part, pinaka-basic skill na dapat nating matutunan being students in ICT, yung tinatawag nating assembly. Kailangan matuto tayong mag-assemble at mag-disassemble ng computer natin, ng sarili natin. Before we proceed to the disassembly procedure, we must first identify what are the different tools that we are going to use in this process. So in computer system servicing, we have different kinds of tools that will be utilized during the entire process. In the disassembly procedure, we'll be only utilizing I think 3 different tools. The main is what we call the Phillips head screwdriver with a plus end. The other one is we'll be utilizing this what we call the anti-static wrist strap. Ito yung nag-eliminate ng static electricity sa ating katawan o sa ating kamay. So para magamit to, you just strap it in your hand like that, and the other end goes through a metal part, any metal part doon sa system unit natin. So that is the function of the anti-static wrist strap. And the other one, we'll be utilizing this, yung tinatawag nating flashlight. This will be handy in dealing with the narrow spaces later on inside the system unit. So the first step, according to the module, is the unplugging. You must unplug everything that is connected at the back panel port of the system unit. We have here the mouse and keyboard, the VGA port, the LAN, the headset, the headphone, and the power supply. All of these peripherals must be disconnected in order for us to work with the system unit. One more tool that I forgot to mention in computer disassembly is what we call the parts organizer. You must have this kind of tool in order for us to secure the different screws that will be removing from the system unit. Dito natin ilalagay yung mga maliliit na screw para hindi sila mawala later on. The next step, after disconnecting all of the peripherals at the back of our system unit, is to open the shell casing. The shell casing consists of 4 screws connected to the system case. All you have to do is to unscrew all of these screws in order for us to open the shell casing. Let's go to step 2, which is the opening of the system case. Let us first unscrew the bolts connecting the outer shell. After unscrewing the bolts, all you have to do is slide the outer shell and slide the outer shell. You don't need to remove the other side since it just contains a metal panel which holds the system board. So hindi nyo na kailangang tanggalin yung kanang part ng ating system unit kasi wala naman tayong matatanggal dito, no? But for the sake of this tutorial or video lesson, tatanggalin natin. Again, another special tool I forgot again to mention is this rubber matting. Make sure that you have this anti-static mat or rubber matting to protect the different peripherals inside our system unit. Now that the system unit is now open, we can already have an access inside it. So let's start extracting parts inside our system unit. I will not be following the series of steps contained in our module since some of the parts is not found in my system unit. May mga part na wala na since hindi ko na nagagamit, like the CD-ROM drive. Wala na akong CD-ROM drive since konti na lang gumagamit. I do not have yet the graphics card since this computer is for office use only and not for gaming. And the side, the system fan. I don't have a system fan which should be installed in this part since the weather in our community is cold, so hindi na natin kailangan ng system fan. Okay na yung CPU fan natin. So the first peripheral that I will be removing from the system unit is the hard disk drive. In this system unit, I have two hard disk drives. One SSD or what we call the solid state drive, which is used in laptops. And the other one is the conventional hard disk drive, which is used for desktops. So to remove the hard disk drive, there are two wires that are connected to it. One is the power supply cable and the other one is the data cable. And before we proceed with the disassembly procedure, I forgot to mention this anti-static wrist strap must be tapped in any metal part of the system unit. Like that. That will be eliminating the static electricity that is in our hands. What if you don't have this anti-static electricity wrist strap? So an alternate way to eliminate static electricity in our hands is just to hold any metal, grounded metal. Like for example this power supply unit, you just hold it for a couple of seconds so that the static electricity will transfer from our hands to the metal part. Once the strap is already tapped in any metal part, we can now start the disassembly procedure. The first device that we are going to extract from our system unit is our hard drive. So for the data cable, there's a lock. Just press the lock and pull the cable. For the power cable, power cord, it doesn't have any lock. All you have to do is to pull the wire. So I have now here the first hard disk drive. Now let us remove the other hard disk. Let us now remove the second hard drive with the same procedure. Pull the data cable, pull the power cable, and unscrew the bolt that is holding the hard disk drive in our system case. Make sure you support the hard drive. Once the screw has been removed, it will fall down. Okay, this is now our second hard drive. I use this as my storage. The first hard drive, the SSD, contains the operating system and the different applications that I use in this system unit, in this computer. This one contains the documents that I create. Once the two hard drives has been extracted from the system unit, we also have to remove the data cables that is connected to our board in order for them to not to get in our way in accessing the motherboard later on. To just pull the data cable, don't worry with the alignment later on because this contains the L-shaped SATA cable which you cannot plug in reverse. So hindi pwedeng baliktaran to. Meron siyang proper alignment sa loob ng motherboard natin, sa ating motherboard. So wag tayong mag-alala na mapagbaliktad. And these data cables goes two ways, kahit saan. The other end can go to the hard drive, the other end to the motherboard, or the other way around. Ayan, pwedeng baliktaran yan. And aside from baliktaran yung ating data cables, pwede rin silang magkapalit ng isang hard drive. This one can go to this hard drive, and this one can go to this hard drive. Pwede rin ganon. It doesn't matter, no? It will still function. The next part that we are going to remove is the power supply. So this power supply unit contains wires in different colors. The colors depends upon the voltage that is emitting, no? Kaya merong color coding yan kasi magkakaiba ng voltahe ang nilalabas. Okay, in order for us to extract the power supply unit, we need to remove the wire that is connected. We call this the 24-pin ATX, and the other one is the 4-pin ATX connector. So we need to extract these two connectors, and there are 4 screws that is holding the power supply. Okay, so in order for us to remove the wires, all you have to do is press on the other side, and there's a lock. Pigain nyo lang, and then pull the wire. Same with the 4-pin power connector. Press the lock and pull the wire. Now that we already removed the wires connecting the motherboard, the next is we need to unscrew the 4 little screws at the back of the system unit holding the power supply. So once these 4 screws has been removed, we can now extract the power supply inside our system unit. So ito na yung ating power supply. I will just show you the lock on the side. Ito yung kanyang lock. Yan. All you have to do is press yung lock para i-release niya yung pagkakakapit niya sa motherboard. Same with the 4-pin. Meron siyang lock. Ito yung lock. Yan. Pag pinipiga natin yan, nire-release niya yung pagkakalock niya sa motherboard. Ganun, no? Okay, so you cannot put this in the wrong way since meron siyang tinatawag nating alignment. Hindi natin mapagbabaliktad. So we'll just transfer the anti-static wrist strap since yung kinakapitan niyang power supply is natanggal na natin. Lipat ko lang. The next thing that we are going to remove is yung tinatawag nating front panel connectors. Ito na yung medyo critical part. Yung tinatawag nating front panel connectors. Make sure that you have an inventory or meron pa kayo nung manual ng motherboard para merong guide later on sa pagbalik ng front panel connector kasi ito na yung part na hindi pwedeng mapagbaliktad natin yung wires. This front panel connector is the one used in this ports sa ating harap in our front panel. Meron tayong USB port, dalawang USB port, the audio port, meron din dyan. Some others, meron pang HDMI na nakalagay and mas maraming USB ports pa. So, hindi natin pwedeng mapagbaliktad yung mga front panel connectors in our motherboard. Para matanggal natin yung connectors, all we have to do is to pull the cables, the wires, the little wires, one by one. There you go. In each of the connectors, meron silang label, may pangalan. Yan, may mga pangalan yan. Let me show you. For example, this one. Can you read? So, ito si reset wire. Yan, si reset wire. So, this reset wire goes to the reset connector dito sa motherboard natin. Meron din siyang label doon sa ating motherboard. So, hindi rin natin mapagbabaliktad later on. Make sure lang na yung reset goes to the reset area. Huwag yung reset goes to the power area. Mali yun. Okay, so we only have one device left inside our system case. We have here the motherboard. So the motherboard is stick to the back panel with 4 little screws. 4 yan. All we have to do is unscrew all of them and pull out the motherboard. This is the first screw. The second screw. Now, if medyo madilim dun sa work area nyo, you can make use of this flashlight para makita natin maigi yung mga screw sa loob. Okay, so this is the last screw that is holding the motherboard. Now we can extract the motherboard since wala nang screw na nakakapit sa kanya. So this is now our motherboard. So in some assessment centers, that will be the last step in the disassembly process, but there are some assessment centers that require you to remove the back panel cover. This one. So this back panel cover is just being clipped at the side. So all you have to do is to push this clip, push the clips, and there goes the back panel cover. So one of the reasons why we need to do the disassembly procedure at least once in every 6 months is for us to eliminate the dust being accumulated inside the system unit. Look, there are dust. This will clog the ventilation later on. And para na malinisan natin, ma-freshen up yung ating motherboard and the entire system unit. Now, the next step that we are going to do is to remove the memory module. This is our memory module. Meron siyang clip dito sa side. There are 2 clips. All you have to do is press down the clip to release the memory module. Here's our memory module. The next one is the heatsink. Tatanggalin natin yung heatsink together with the fan. But before we remove the fan, meron siyang power connector na connect dito sa board. Ito. So itong power connector na to, all you have to do is pull out. There goes the power connector for our CPU fan. Now ready to remove the heatsink together with the CPU fan. This one. So in order for us to remove the heatsink with the fan, meron tayong clip lock dito sa side. This depends upon the model and the type of motherboard you have in your houses, no? Magkakaiba yan. This one is an AMD series motherboard. So, simple lang ang AMD. All you have to do is pull this up. And you notice it releases the heatsink and the fan. So, all you have to do is pull the entire heatsink and fan up. Medyo meron siyang konting pressure. It's because there's a thermal paste located in between the CPU and the heatsink. Ito yung tinatawag nating thermal paste. So this thermal paste dapat hindi ito natutuyo, no? Because this is the one capable of transferring the heat from the CPU to the heatsink. Pag ito matigas na, hindi niya na may transfer yung heat emitted by the CPU to the heatsink. That's the time na naghahanghang na yung computer natin. So ito yung mga nire-recondition natin sa ating system unit. Use compressed air para tanggalin itong mga dust na ito, or simple brush. Kahit brush lang. Toothbrush or yung paintbrush, pwede na. But for the sake of this video lesson, hindi ko muna ito lilinisan para meron akong tatanggalin later on sa ating maintenance, no? Meron tayong topic sa maintenance. The next one is for us to remove the CPU. Ito na yung tinatawag nating CPU. Okay, so meron siyang lock dito sa gilid. As you can see, this one, this metal, this shiny little metal here, ito yung lock niya. So all you have to do is press the little metal, slide it sidewards, para ma-release yung CPU natin. Yan, pag nakaangat na, ready na tayong hugutin yung CPU natin. This is our CPU. Take note, medyo alalay lang tayo sa CPU. It contains tremendous amount of little feet, copper feet. Pag ang isa dyan na yupi, wala na. So, ingat lang sa ating CPU. So that ends the disassembly process. napaghiwa-hiwalay na natin lahat ng parts ng ating system unit, including the processor, the memory, the heatsink, and the fan, CPU fan, hard drives. So once na-extract nyo na, this is the time that you're going to identify the different parts. Pwede rin ganon, or while you remove the part inside the system unit, you identify it. Pwede rin. Okay, so this is the motherboard, the CPU, the RAM module, the hard drives, the data cable, the heatsink with the CPU fan, and the back panel cover.
A few moments later.
May mga steps ulit dun sa module natin na hindi natin magagawa since we do not have the device, and especially dun sa number 4, step number 4, prepare the drivers. So the drivers, later on, magkakaroon ulit tayo ng ibang discussion para sa mga drivers natin. Ang focus lang natin dito is for us to assemble the system unit. So we are now ready to perform the assembly process. The first thing that we are going to install is yung CPU natin. This is the CPU. So put it in the right place. Yan. Make sure that it sits below the CPU slot. Press natin yung lock pababa. That secures the CPU. Next is install natin yung thermal paste with the CPU fan. First thing is ipakagat nyo yung the other side of the lock on this part of the CPU or the motherboard, I mean, dito. And then push it on the other side. Pag naipakagat nyo yung other side, all you have to do is lock. And then install the power that is located on the motherboard. Next is our memory module, yung memory niya. So better if you have 2 slots for the memory, dun tayo sa mas malapit sa CPU maglagay ng memory. Huwag dun sa mas malayo. Okay, so since I have 2 memory slots, dun ako sa mas malapit sa CPU. Then just push the memory downwards. There. So ready na yung ating motherboard with the CPU and the memory for installation. So kunin natin yung system case para masimulan natin ibalik yung ating mga devices inside the system unit. The first thing that you're going to return back inside our system unit is the back panel cover. Ito. Mauna to. Because once na nakalagay na yung motherboard, mahirap na itong isiksik dito sa part na to. So, all you have to do is position the back panel cover and then push it in place. Yun. Meron siyang lock. Okay, so nakapwesto na yung ating back panel cover. Next is we get the motherboard. Ipwesto na natin siya sa loob ng ating system case. And then ibalik natin yung 4 na little screws that holds the motherboard in our system casing. Again, don't forget to tap your anti-static wrist strap and utilize the little flashlight in order for us to access these narrow areas inside our system unit. So better if you're using this kind of screwdriver na yung magnetic ang dulo para nahawakan niyo yung screw para hindi ka mahirapan sa pagbalik ng screw. Okay, so our motherboard is now secured. Nakalagay na ulit siya sa ating system case. Next is we need to return back these front panel connectors para gumana yung power button natin dito at yung mga ports here para gumana. Okay, so sabi ko nga kanina, the reset wire goes to the reset on the motherboard, the power switch goes to the power switch on the motherboard, and same with the others. So may mga label yan, basahin nyo lang. Okay, so I will be installing one by one. Reset. See power. Power LED. We have here the hard disk LED. And sometimes, yung mga USB ports, ito, mga USB, isa lang yung port niya sa motherboard, so hindi nyo magagamit yung isa. Okay. So okay na yung ating front panel connectors. Next, we are now going to install one of the hard drives since nandito kasi siya sa pinaka gilid ng system case. Unahin na natin siya para hindi tayo mahirapan later on. Pag nakalagay na kasi yung power supply dito, may mga wires na, mahirapan na tayong i-access yung itong part na ito. Okay, depende yan sa sitwasyon ng yung system case, no? Hindi naman pare-parehas ang system case natin. It depends upon what you have there in your workstation. So there goes the hard drive. Kahit isa lang, pwede na. Kasi fit na fit naman yung position niya dun sa area na yon. Nakaipit yung hard drive natin. Okay. Let us now install the power supply unit. So sa pag-install ng power supply, meron siyang alignment dito sa likod. Sa back part. If you observe, yan. Pag ganyan, yung pagkakalagay ng power supply natin, mali. Kasi yung part na lalagyan natin ng bolt, yung malayo dun sa butas. So, balik rin natin. Hanapin natin yung tamang alignment niya. Usually, yung label, ito yung basehan natin. Yung label na to, nakalabas, nababasa ng user. Yung label na yan. Yun. Okay na yung mga lalagyan ng bolts. So, power supply is now secured. Okay na siya. We are now ready to install the different power cables in the different devices inside our system unit. So, unahin natin yung 24-pin ATX power connector, just push, and the 4-pin power connector. Okay, lagyan na rin natin ng power yung hard drive natin. Again, kailangan natin ng flashlight kasi medyo masikip at madilim dun sa part na yun. And then, lagyan na rin natin siya ng data cable. Data cable goes one end to the motherboard at yung isa sa ating hard disk drive. Okay, ilagay na rin natin yung isang data cable katabi ng data cable na isa. Then we install it in our little hard drive. And lagyan natin ng power yung little hard drive. The last step that we're going to do is to install back the outer shells, the left and the right outer shells. And do not forget the screws that holds up the outer shells. So that ends the performance task that you are going to perform under the Module 8 in Computer Systems Servicing.